You walk into a room. You smile, you speak, and somehow you disappear. It's not that people are unkind. It's not even that they ignore you. It's something harder to name. They see your outline, they hear your voice, but they don't feel you. You become background, present, but not imprinted. So you try harder, you tighten your posture, rehearse your stories. You adjust your tone to fit the room, your face to match the mood. You keep searching for that perfect version of yourself, one loud enough, smooth enough, impressive enough to finally be noticed. But deep down you already know it isn't working. Because no matter how much you polish the surface, when you leave the room, it's like you were never really there. Here's what no one ever told you: you're not invisible because you lack charisma. You're invisible because you were taught to chase visibility instead of cultivating presence. And that's what this is about. This is the power of presence, not the kind that turns heads for a moment, but the kind that leaves echoes in people's lives, the kind that stays. It has nothing to do with volume, or perfection, or performance. It's not something you fake, or force, or fabricate. It's what happens when you show up, fully, authentically, calmly. When your attention becomes a gift and your stillness becomes a mirror. There's a teacher named Mr. Garcia. He didn't raise his voice or command attention. He didn't try to be memorable, but he remembered every student's name by the second day. Asked questions that made kids feel seen, not evaluated. Years later, they still talk about him. Not because of what he taught, but because of how he made them feel. That's what real presence does. It anchors, it affirms, it stays. And your body already knows this. It's called neuroception, your nervous system constantly scanning. Am I safe here? Am I seen? Am I welcome to be myself? The people we remember most are the ones who answered that question without words. They didn't just speak to us, they regulated us. That's what makes someone unforgettable, not how they performed, but how they made us feel safe to stop performing ourselves. You don't need to talk louder. You don't need to sparkle more. You just need to be here. Because presence, the grounded, sincere kind, isn't about being seen. It's about seeing others, seeing yourself. Seeing this moment is enough. If someone ever made you feel unforgettable even once, pause for a moment and type their name in the comments. Let their presence ripple through your memory. Let it echo. And if you've never felt that kind of presence, stay with me. Because what you're about to discover isn't a technique. It's a way of being that you already carry, quiet, waiting, powerful. You don't need to earn it. You just need to remember it. You were taught that if you wanted to be remembered, you had to be remarkable. Speak louder, stand taller. Smile wider, own the room. They called it charisma, and you believed them. You followed the advice power poses, firm handshakes, performative confidence. You learned how to stand out, how to project, how to charm. But somehow it never quite landed, not in the way that mattered. People looked at you but didn't feel you. They listened but didn't remember. What if everything you've been taught about presence is wrong? What if the most magnetic people aren't those who demand attention, but those who create a space for others to exhale? Charisma is a performance, presence is a transmission. It's not something you do, it's something people feel. And your nervous system is the messenger. Science tells us about mirror neurons, how we unconsciously absorb the energy of those around us. Calm people calm others. Anxious people spread unease. Polyvagal theory explains it even deeper. Your nervous system is always scanning the room, asking, am I safe here? And it listens first not to words, but to breath, to tone, to eyes. That's why true presence isn't flashy, it's felt. There's a woman named Diane who works with first responders after traumatic events. She doesn't talk much, doesn't command the room. But when she enters, the atmosphere shifts. People breathe slower, walls come down. Some even cry without knowing why. Not because of what she says, but because of what she brings. Her nervous system says, you can land here, that's unforgettable. Charisma wants you to notice them. Presence makes you feel noticed. And here's the paradox. The less you try to be impressive, the more others feel your impact. There's a story about Satchel Paige, the legendary pitcher. They say he once told his team to sit down. He'd handle the inning himself. 3 strikeouts later, he walked off the mound without saying a word. No theatrics, no ego, just calm certainty. He didn't steal attention. He carried it like still water. That's presence. So the next time you walk into a room, stop trying to project yourself. Instead, ground yourself, feel your feet. Slow your breath, soften your eyes, because your body speaks louder than your words ever could. And people don't remember the pitch, they remember the piece. Pause for a second. Think of someone in your life who changed the entire energy of a room without saying much. That's presence. Type their name in the comments, and then ask yourself, what would happen if you stopped performing? If you stopped trying to impress and started trying to connect? The answer is simple. You'd stop being overlooked and start being unforgettable. You may think people remember you for what you say, for your wit, for your confidence, for your insight. But that's not what lingers. What lingers is how you made them feel about themselves. The most unforgettable presence in someone's life is rarely the one who dazzled them. It's the one who saw them, not the mask, not the performance, not the polished version, them, raw, real, unedited. David Brooks, a political commentator who turned his attention to the inner life, describes these people as illuminators. They are the rare ones who make others feel bigger, deeper, more whole, simply by how they pay attention. They don't ask questions to fill silence. They ask to uncover soul. They don't wait for their turn to speak, and they wait for you to be heard. And in that space, something happens. Your nervous system relaxes, your story opens, your walls lower. And afterward, you're not quite sure why, but you remember them. Because they made you feel remembered. There's a man named Elijah who volunteers at a youth shelter. He doesn't have a psychology degree or a big voice. But every teenager who's been through that program says the same thing. He saw something in me that I didn't even know was there. And they come back, months, years later, not to thank him for advice, but for presence. For the way he listened. The way he held eye contact when others turned away. The way his silence said, I'm not rushing this moment. This is what unforgettable presence looks like. Not a spotlight, a mirror, not a performance, an invitation. It's empathy made real. And we are wired for it. Our mirror neurons fire when someone sits with us, not above us. Our breath synchronizes, our heart rate calms. Our inner child finally feels safe to speak. And here's the paradox no one teaches. You don't become unforgettable by trying to be seen. You become unforgettable by truly seeing others. If you've ever had a friend or a mentor or a stranger hold space for you, if someone ever made you feel like you mattered in a world that told you to perform, type it in the comments. Let them live on through your memory. And if you want to build that kind of presence, you don't need scripts, you don't need charm, you need curiosity. You need to ask the second question. You need to stay one moment longer when someone pauses before answering. Because presence doesn't come from what you say. It comes from your willingness to not look away. In a noisy world, that kind of attention is medicine. And medicine, when offered with care, is never forgotten. The world rewards movement, speed, volume, noise. You're taught to stay busy, stay visible, stay ahead. But presence, the kind that captivates, heals, transforms, doesn't live in noise. It lives in stillness. Stillness isn't the absence of energy. It's focused energy, it's a body in alignment, a voice without strain, a soul not in a rush to prove itself. Eckhart Tolle once said, wisdom comes with the ability to be still. Just look and just listen, no more is needed. But in a world of performance, stillness feels like weakness. That's the myth, and it's time to unlearn it. Stillness isn't silence, it's sovereignty. It's being so rooted in yourself that nothing needs to be added to make you enough. There's a story of a boardroom in crisis, executives arguing, ideas flying, tension rising. And in the middle sat someone who didn't speak for 20 minutes. But when she finally did, no one interrupted. She said less than anyone else, but carried the most weight. Not because of her words, because of the energy behind them. This is what polyvagal theory helps us understand. Your nervous system isn't just yours. It transmits. When you are regulated, others feel it. When you breathe slowly, others unconsciously match your rhythm. When your face is soft, your tone calm, your body still, you become a lighthouse in someone else's storm. And that's unforgettable. There's a breath cue I want you to try, right now. Inhale, slowly exhale, softer, like the ocean pulling back from the shore. Feel that space? That's your presence arriving. You don't need to say a word to be felt. You don't need to chase the moment to change it. In fact, the people we remember most are often the ones who slowed time for us. They didn't speak over us. They didn't rush us. They didn't judge our silence. They made it safe to land. Stillness is power most people will never cultivate because it requires the courage to stop performing. But when you do, when you soften your breath, root your body, and listen instead of rush, you begin to radiate a kind of presence that others can't explain but won't forget. Because in a world that moves too fast, the person who slows you down, that's the person you remember. At some point, performing gets exhausting, not because you're doing it wrong, but because you've done it too well. You've become what others wanted. You've mastered likability, adaptability, poise. You know how to read a room, shift your tone, smile through silence. And somewhere along the way, your presence became a costume. It's subtle, no one sees the weight of it. Because you wear it beautifully, but deep inside, you feel it, that low hum of disconnection. The sense that even when people admire you, they don't really know you, and they don't. Because you've only ever shown them what's been safe to reveal. Carl Jung called this the process of individuation, the lifelong journey of becoming whole by integrating the parts of ourselves we've hidden or denied. The smiles that covered the sadness, the smallness that came from years of trying not to take up too much space. The careful silence that masks the fear of being misunderstood. This isn't just philosophy, it's your nervous system at work. It's why even when you're praised, it doesn't land, why compliments feel hollow. Why connection feels thin, because deep presence doesn't come from being admired. It comes from being aligned. There's a young woman named Camila. She spent years trying to fit every space she entered, polishing her accent, softening her opinions, trimming her laughter to the rhythm of what others found acceptable. And one day in the middle of a conversation, she stopped. She said, "I'm tired of editing myself into something digestible." That moment changed her. She lost some people, but she found her presence. You don't need to prove yourself to be present. You need to reclaim yourself. There's a Zen story of a professor who visits a master, hoping to learn. The master pours him tea and keeps pouring, even as it overflows. "Why are you still pouring?" the professor asks. The master replies, "Because like this cup, you are full of your own opinions. You must empty your cup first. This is your invitation to empty the performance. The smile that hides anxiety, the certainty that covers your curiosity, the charisma that blocks your calm. Let go. Let the dead leaves drop," as Rumi said. You are not unforgettable because you shine. You are unforgettable because you shed. Because when someone finally meets the part of you that you've been hiding, the part you never thought was worthy of being seen, that is the moment they remember forever. And in that moment, you become whole. Maybe no one ever told you this, but someone still carries the calm you brought them when they needed it most. Maybe they never said thank you. Maybe they didn't even know how to name it. But they felt it, because presence doesn't just live in the moment. It leaves echoes. Not everyone is remembered for their words, but the way they listened, the way they waited, the way they made space for others to breathe. James Hillman said, "Character forces me to encounter each event in my peculiar style. This is my courage, my dignity, my integrity." Your presence is your signature, not what you say, but how you are with others when there's no need to perform. And that's what people carry with them. There's an old woman named Ruth who worked at a public library for decades. She didn't speak much, but every child who grew up there remembers the way she smiled as she handed them a book. They say she made me feel like my thoughts mattered. Not because of a speech, because of her stillness, her warmth, her way of saying, "You belong here." That's the echo, not the applause, not the accolades. The feeling you leave in someone's body long after you're gone. And that's the power of presence. So before we end, I want you to try something. Close your eyes, breathe in slowly. Breathe out fully, feel your body settle. Feel this moment widen, that stillness. That's your presence arriving, and it's unforgettable. If someone ever made you feel safe, seen, or whole, type their name in the comments. Let them echo here, and if you're ready to stop performing, to stop shrinking, if you're ready to let your presence carry its full weight, type this now: "I am unforgettable." Because you are, and the world doesn't need you to shine harder. It needs you to show up real, grounded, whole. This is the power of presence, the kind that doesn't fade. The kind that stays. Inhale, exhale, leave your echo.